Have you ever stopped to think about how your life could change if you believed in something greater than your problems? What if there was a source of peace, purpose, and strength that could guide each step you take, even in the most challenging moments? In today's video, we're going to dive deep into an essential topic: how believing in Jesus can transform your life in practical and profound ways. Together, we'll discover how the teachings of Christ, as found in the Bible, can be applied to your daily life, helping you overcome challenges, find peace in chaos, and live with renewed purpose. Stay tuned until the end because we'll share a reflection that can completely change your perspective. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this message with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel to keep receiving life-changing content. One of the most striking stories in the Gospels is when Peter walks on water, Matthew 14 verses 22 to 33. Imagine the scene. In the middle of a storm, Peter sees Jesus walking on water and, in a moment of faith, asks to meet him. At first, Peter walks confidently. However, when he takes his eyes off Jesus and looks at the waves around him, he begins to sink. This story perfectly illustrates the power of faith, but it also reveals our fragility when fear and worries take over. Just like Peter, we often find ourselves sinking when we shift our focus from Jesus and fix our eyes on the problems of life. Just like Peter, we also face storms in our daily lives, moments of uncertainty, anxiety, and fear that seem to pull us down. But Jesus invites us to keep our eyes fixed on Him, to trust in His guidance even when circumstances seem to say otherwise. A simple yet powerful practice is to start your day with prayer or Bible reading. This daily connection with God helps us face challenges with a perspective of faith, reminding us that with Jesus by our side, we can walk through life's turbulent waters without fear. One of the most profound lessons Jesus left us was through the parable of the prodigal son, Luke 15 verses 11 to 32. In the story, we see a young man who, after squandering his inheritance, returns to his father in ruins, expecting rejection. But instead, he is welcomed with open arms. This account illustrates the power of forgiveness and the unconditional love of God for us. Just as the Father forgave the prodigal son, God is always ready to welcome us, regardless of our mistakes. This teaching is powerful not only for our relationship with God, but also for our human relationships. Practical application: forgiveness in everyday life. Practicing forgiveness is a form of liberation. We often hold on to grudges that weigh us down, affecting our emotional and spiritual well-being. The Bible teaches us that forgiving is an act that brings us closer to God and His peace. Think about someone you need to forgive today. It may be difficult at first, but forgiveness is a decision that frees us from the weight of resentment. When we release what ties us to the past, we open space for healing and for God's love to flow in our lives. The importance of unshakable faith: Abraham and God's promise. Abraham is an incredible example of unshakable faith. God promised him that he would be the father of many nations, but that promise seemed impossible, as both he and his wife Sarah were already old, Genesis 15. Yet Abraham never wavered in his faith. He fully trusted that God would fulfill what He had promised. This story is a powerful example of how faith guides us, even when the circumstances around us seem to say otherwise. In moments of uncertainty in our own lives, we need to look to Abraham's example and learn to trust God with all our hearts. Practical application: cultivating patience and faith. Many times, we pray and expect quick answers, but God works in His perfect time, and that time may not be ours. Abraham's story teaches us to wait patiently, trusting that God is in control. To practice this patience, start by writing down your prayers and the promises you feel God has for you. Over time, you will be able to see how He responds, often in ways that surprise us and are better than we imagined. This strengthens our faith and encourages us to stay firm, even when the answers seem delayed. The compassion of Jesus, the touch that heals. Jesus demonstrated compassion in every step of His ministry. One profound example is when He heals a leper, Matthew 8 verses 1 to 4. At the time, lepers were excluded from society, treated as unclean, and isolated from everyone. But Jesus, in His infinite compassion, touches the man and heals him, showing that His love transcends any social, cultural, or religious barrier. Jesus' example challenges us to be compassionate and to look beyond appearances, extending a hand to the marginalized and forgotten. Practical application, showing compassion in daily life. Have you ever wondered how you can show more compassion in your daily life? Being compassionate like Jesus means acting with kindness and empathy, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Today, look for someone who needs an act of compassion. It could be a friend in need, a stranger you meet on the street, or even someone within your own home. Small acts of love and compassion make a big difference, and when we practice this, we bring Christ's love to the world around us. Job's story, trusting in the midst of suffering. The story of Job is one of the most challenging in the Bible. He lost everything: family, wealth, and health. Yet, even in the midst of so much suffering, Job never lost faith in God. He questioned, he lamented, but he never stopped trusting that God had a greater purpose. Job 1-2. Job's life teaches us that even in the darkest moments, when everything seems lost, trusting in God is what sustains us. If you're going through a difficult time, remember Job and know that God is with you, working on a bigger plan, even if you can't see it yet. Practical application, trusting God in difficult times. It's natural to feel lost when we face challenges. But just like Job, we are called to trust in God, even when we don't understand what's happening. A practical way to strengthen this trust is to set aside time for prayer and silence, giving your fears and worries to God. Remember, He has a purpose for everything, and even suffering can bring growth and transformation. In the toughest moments, trust that God is working for good, even if the answer isn't visible yet. Powerful conclusion: how believing in Jesus transforms lives. Believing in Jesus is not just about having faith in a distant being. It's about living a life transformed by His teachings, applying His words to our everyday lives. When we learn to trust God in adversity, practice forgiveness and compassion, and keep our eyes fixed on Christ, we see real and profound changes in our lives. If this message touched your heart, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. May faith in Jesus continue to transform your life, bringing the peace and hope that only He can offer. You are not alone on this journey. God is always with you, guiding each and every one of your steps.